Pamela Wallin, in her foreword to Senator Hugh Segal's latest offering, The Right Balance, wastes no time and space mincing words. This, she writes, is a self-help book for the intellectually starved, the history deprived, and for those who know that the media's take on today's politics is all too often a fact-free zone. Fact-free zone. Fair enough, Senator Wallin. This political junkie, however, would also like to add today's politics appears all too often to be an ideas-free zone as well. And like many Canadians who lament the famine of ideas that drives the conversation and debate on the Hill these days, the right balance appears, just in time to supply body and spirit hope. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Neil Wilson. I'm the founding director of the Ottawa International Writers Festival, Canada's Festival of Ideas. It is an honor for me, on behalf of the Writers Festival, Douglas and McIntyre, and Arc the Hotel, to invite you to buy and read a book that speaks clearly and confidently about the kind of Canada that we all deserve. Hugh Segal has written 5 books, including the national bestseller, No Surrender. He's a former senior aide and advisor to a Prime Minister and 2 Ontario Premiers. He's a former head of a major think tank, a professor and senior fellow at Queen's School of Policy Studies, and a Liberal-appointed Conservative senator. In 2003, he received the Order of Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Hugh Segal.
Well, I was really worried for a moment when our host made reference to a fat-free. You know, gentle hints here and there are very much appreciated, but that struck me as a touch harsh. Thank you all for making time on a snowy Monday and your busy schedules for joining us here to help launch this book. I want to thank the Ottawa Writers Festival for their support and encouragement. The Arc Hotel is being so hospitable and gracious here today, and of course my publisher, Douglas and McIntyre, who put up with a lot through the process. This is a heavily edited book. There were many drafts, shall we say, and Rose Brisson is standing in the back, a dear friend and someone who's been working with me here for 5 years, has been a friend of our family for almost 20, and she took on the burden, late nights, early mornings, weekends, etc., of deciphering my fountain pen screed on yellow foolscap, which I take it is not quite leading edge technology. The reason that I put this book together and worked on it, it was about a 3.5-year, 4-year effort, was largely because I just became troubled by the shorthand by which we referred to the conditions of the world described by the word conservative. So there'd be a reference to conservative forces in Iran supporting stoning as an appropriate measure for adultery of women. Or there'd be a reference to conservative forces in China approving censorship of the internet. Or there'd be a reference to conservative forces in the Tea Party movement who think universal health insurance is really communism and the devil's work. Now, I respect the fact that they have the right to their views, but that's not the conservatism that I think we have engendered as a society in Canada. And if I believe that, it struck me that I had an obligation to do a little bit of hard work about the forces that came together since long before Confederation, since the first Europeans came to settle in this part of the world, to shape what the present conservative tradition really is. And how did they meld and how did they conflict, which they did on occasion, and who were the key players and what were the ideas, not who won this election or lost that election. That's not unimportant. It is very important, and on occasion I've actually experienced the winning of an election, not personally, of course, but sort of huddled with others who did, and trying to claim as much positive association with the measure as might be otherwise inconceivable. And it just struck me that the conservatism of Lord Elgin, who defended French-Canadian rights, and for that got a reasonable hotel named after him right here in the nation's capital, and who signed the first bill passed by the Papineau-Baldwin government, which provided for reparations for French-Canadian rebels who had lost the battle, but who were to be treated fairly. The difference between him and Lord Durham, Radical Jack, a British liberal who wanted to meld all the identities into one kind of cookie cutter, we're all the same, which is not who we are in Canada. And I thought that the things that people like R.B. Bennett did in terms of reaching out in difficult times during the Depression to the poor, to the disadvantaged, to those out of work, to begin a process which really set this country on a mix of enterprise and nation conservatism, which I think has set us apart. And whether you're on the right wing of the spectrum or the center left of the spectrum, the truth of the matter is that the balance of our kind of Canadian conservatism is far different than what you might find in other countries, and there's a reason for that. Tied to our geography, tied to our history, tied to our demographics. So that's the case that I make in the book. I don't say that our conservatism is better than others. That would be presumptuous and unfair. I do say that it's different. And the reasons for that difference are worth understanding, not because history is a predictor of the future, but if you don't understand where we've come from and what the formative roles have been in the shaping of our present political framework, it'll be very difficult to sort out where we're headed. And all of us as citizens, regardless of our political affiliation or preference, will have to make choices about where we're headed in the not too distant future, which is precisely that right that men and women in uniform for this country have fought for years to protect for all of us in this process. So that's the purpose of the book. It is not without humor, and most of which justifiably is at my own expense. There is no reference to my 2 campaigns for Parliament in this very seat. I was just past puberty at the time. And on 2 separate occasions, the good people of Ottawa Centre went to the voting stations and basements and gymnasium that form the basis of our democratic system and our sworn franchise, and asked me in a very personal way to stay out of public life, which is kind of why I'm here. If I'd been elected at the age of 22, I doubt that I would have been appointed by a Liberal as a Conservative senator in 2005, about which I should feel guilty, but frankly, I don't. So thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. I hope I get a chance to talk with those who I have not had the chance to speak with. Let me encourage your support for the Ottawa Writers Festival. It is one of those leading organizations that really makes it possible for writers to get their thoughts and ideas across and unite writers with audiences across this great city. And let me also thank our friends here at the ARC The Hotel, as opposed to The ARC Hotel, which I'm sure is a complete violation of their branding strategy. Thank you. Bartender said, "You got it, big boy." But I want to thank them for their hospitality, which obviously has helped to make this possible. And I want to thank all of you, Privy Councillors, former Lieutenant Commanders, presidents of organizations, friends, colleagues, High Commissioners, for finding a moment to join us. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.